With the success of The Lord of the Rings, it only made sense that Disney sort of wanted to do their own version. But because they couldn't get Tolkien, they decided to go to his best friend, C.S. Lewis. And since Disney is more kid-oriented, it made more sense to go to a story that was also a bit more kid-oriented. Enter the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I have to admit, when I heard they were making a movie on this, I did get a little nervous as I knew the story, and I didn't know if audiences would connect with it. It is, when you get down to it, really strange and really bizarre, but they found a really good mix, updating the effects and tone while still keeping true to the book's spirit. Think Bedknobs and Broomsticks meets The Two Towers. It starts off in wartime and 4 children have to be separated from their mother. They're sent to live with a professor who has an enchanted wardrobe, and when you walk inside, you enter into a fictional realm called Narnia. But Narnia is currently being ruled by an evil sorceress known as the White Queen. But as the kids journey into the land and find out more about it, they discover that they're actually fulfilling a prophecy that they would be the heroes to lead her into ruin, and that they would result in the return of Aslan, a giant heroic lion who will bring light back to the good land of Narnia. Colorful characters are met, destinies are discovered, and battles are fought to decide who will rule the Enchanted Kingdom. I was really impressed with how well they were taking sort of these silly images and elements and actually making them very serious. 2 of the best friends in this are talking beavers, and I really thought, oh man, this is gonna bomb when we get to that, but it works out really well. The animation on them is very good, and they have very distinct characteristics and personalities. The White Queen is a good villain, and all the child actors do a pretty good job too. And yes, I know that looks like Lindsay Ellis, I've made that joke before. What really helps pull it through is the heart that it has, and there is a lot of it in here. The book itself is very vague and a quick read, but here they give a lot of details to the characters' connection and relationships. The best one being with Lucy and Mr. Thompson. My god, I love watching these 2 together. That's James McAvoy, who I'm convinced can do absolutely no wrong. Well, almost. The scenes these 2 have together just knock it out of the park. I almost wish it was just about them. But when the action has to come in and the story has to get a lot bigger, it does exactly that. I'll warn you now though that if you thought some of the religious symbolism in The Lord of the Rings was a bit obvious, this beats you over the head with it. There is no doubt who these characters are, what they're representing, it's in your face. But I didn't mind too much because it still makes for a good story. Even if I didn't know what it was symbolic of, I would still really enjoy it. The only thing I couldn't get into was the story arc with Peter. He's supposed to be the king, the big ruler, the guy who's supposed to come into his own and rule the kingdom, and yeah, he's just kind of bland. I had the same problem with Aragorn in Return of the King. He's supposed to be the ruler, the guy who's supposed to be in charge of everything, and all you do is just see him chop up a bunch of guys, nothing much else. I think if they got that element down, this would be on par with some of the great epic fantasies. But as is, it's still pretty good. It's probably one of the most difficult adaptations you could do in terms of making it serious, and I think it really pays off. The child actors are good, the animation is really good, the effects are a lot of fun, and when you get to the end, it does feel really big. I'm really impressed with it. It's not an easy story to adapt, and I think they did a damn good job. Is it for everyone? No, I mean, if you're looking for something that has a lot more detail and logic to it, it isn't really that kind of story. But for just pure straight-up fantasy with a lot of incredible creatures and visuals, this one's definitely worth the trip. So how's this for a dummy moment? When I was a kid, I thought there was only one Narnia book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I had no idea there were all these sequels that it had. The reason I say this is to point out quite clearly that I never read the book to the sequel, Narnia, Prince Caspian. And I hear that the people that did really don't like the second one. And even some people who didn't don't really like the second one either. But I'll be honest, I don't get it. In my opinion, this is just as good, if not better than the first one. It has a much more heavy and dark tone as the kids return to Narnia to find that it's years later. All the characters they knew are gone, and now this new dictatorship has taken over and everything is in ruin. So the kids have to find their way to get an army and win it back. What I like about this film is that it seems like there's a lot more strategy and a lot more talking about politics. But in a good way. It felt to me like Game of Thrones. Hell, Peter Dinklage is friggin' in it. And he does fantastic as usual. But I think there's more than that. There's a lot of talk about faith in this movie. You don't see much of Aslan in it, but it's very selectively done. He appears in moments that tie into the character's belief, and I think that makes a lot of sense. There's also a lot about temptation in the movie. Peter has gotten too cocky and is afraid that he's lost his way, so the ghost of an evil past comes in to try and tempt him. Sort of devilish, if you will. I heard this wasn't in the original book, but I think it's great. The battles seem much larger too. They seem more gritty and harsh and adult. It's not just characters being turned to stone, you see them die, you see them get stabbed. It's pretty intense. But maybe that's what a lot of people didn't like about it. There's not as many fantasy characters in this. They more sort of show up at the end, and even then, not that many. I like the fact that Peter was given more of an arc in this one because I felt it was desperately missing in the first one. The bad guy is great. He definitely has his villainous moments, but you also see he's still human. He's trying to do what's best for his family line and will do absolutely anything to make it happen. Once again, the ending does sort of come around to a deus ex machina, kinda like the first film, and maybe that threw a lot of people off too. Like, hey, didn't we get that in the first film? Why are we seeing this again? Granted, it's not the exact same one, but it is something that you didn't know existed suddenly comes out and saves the day. But I didn't mind because I was totally in the battle the whole time. I was rooting for the heroes, I wanted to see them save the day, and I thought the action scenes were really good and really intense. I guess for me, I was ready for something a little darker and a little harsher. But maybe that's not what others were looking for. And maybe they did want to follow the book closer. Like I said, I haven't read it, so maybe they're right. Maybe the book did do it better. But as a straightforward sequel, I think it's pretty effective. Check it out and draw your own conclusions.